Kia ora, New Zealand. Welcome to Sweet Chain Live. My name is Matt Drake. This is episode 63. Good evening, Brady Cush.
How you doing, Matt?
Very good. It's got very cold here.
Yeah, that southerly kind of blew in out of nowhere.
Yeah, it really, really cold in Wellington. So I hope you're wrapped up warm wherever you are. In New Zealand watching this or indeed abroad. And I hope you're keeping well. And in spite of the clocks going back here last weekend, you're able to get out and play some disc golf. Evening's a bit of a write-off now, but you never know. Weekend mornings, that's where it's at. Weekend mornings. Right. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to go through hot scores in a moment from around the country, and then we're going to be talking to our guest tonight, Henry Pearson. Now, Henry Pearson is the man behind WIN.O, the latest sort of disc golf company on the scene in New Zealand, making some really nice bags and some other stuff. We'll talk to him about that shortly. He's going to do Desert Island Discgolf, and then we need your help, quite frankly. We need your help. We've got a few ideas about what we can feature in future shows. But we'd like to know what you'd like to hear. So we've got a couple of ideas. We're going to go through those a bit later on. But in the comments, pop down some ideas of some things that you'd like to see or hear in these shows going forward. And you never know. They might even get featured, and we might even ask you on to be a guest. Lovely. Finally, we'll go through the upcoming events, power rankings, and our picks for Brook Park Brave, which is this weekend and forms the backdrop to, if I go that way, there we are. You'll find this photo on UDisc. I think it's Amy who did it up, so I think that might be, I don't know who that is, but if it's you, let us know. Anyway. Starting with hot scores down south at Queen's Park in Invercargill. Hayden Edgley hits the hottest score for the week with 12 under par. And across to Dunedin, Cameron Mackey takes it out every week with 8 under par. Well done to Cameron. Over at Queenstown Gardens, Akira Kuro hits 11 under par. So well done, Akira. And up at Tucker's Beach, where it's always sunny, despite it being cold, is Alex Basford, who hits 6 under par. Over at Lismore, a bit of a 7 under par party going on with Ben Quinn, Kyle Martin, Ryan Cambridge, Matt Pritchard, and John Menzies all hitting 7 under par this week. Well done to them. And at Ely Point, Quinn Parry. Quinn Parry's evens was enough to take out the hot round there. Willie Tratton has been shredding it up in the Garden City with 12 under par at Jelly Park and follows that up with an 8 under par at Queen's Park Reserve. So well done to Willie Tratton. And over at Brooker Ave, Jeremy Brockenshire hits 9 under par in the eastern side of Christchurch. And finally, to round out the South Island, at the Taylor River Disc Golf Park, which is one of the newest ones, if not the newest one. Chris Corbyn's been heavily involved in setting that up, so well done to him. And he also takes out the hot round at Taylor River with a 7 under par. So well done to Chris. There's also a Stuff article on all about that. If you Google Stuff and then have a look for that, it's a very nice article that features Chris talking all about disc golf in Blenheim, and we wish him all the best there. Brady takes through the north.
Through the north, starting as ever here in the capital, let's go to Berhampore on the main tees. Young Ha comes in this week with a hot round of -4. -4 is also the hot round out at Hikoikoi. It was shot during the Champions round of Husker this past weekend by Keith Thurlow. So congratulations on the win and the hot round. Rounding out the capital, Jack Ryan comes in at -3 out at Harcourt Park. So congratulations to Jack. Up in Palmy, we have a -4 party. We have Arthur Graham, Ryan Kiddo, and G. Brazel coming in at -4 this week for the hot round. Up Lakeside, let's go to Taupo in Spa Park. Dane Sales coming in at -5 for the hot round this week. Good leading up prior to that tournament. Over to the Naki, let's go to Maryland's this week. Luke Humphreys, Dwayne Goodman, and Mike, please put your surname on UDisc, coming in at -1 for the hot round at Maryland's. Over to Rotorua into the Scion Tree Nursery, Narimu Hapu coming in at +1 this week. So it's proving difficult in the Redwoods. Hastings kind of has calmed down a little bit now that they're out of their league. So we'll go up to McLaren Falls and Tauranga. Quentin Suppers and Daniel Thornton coming in at -2 this week for the hot round. And finally, up in the big smoke, let's go to Rosedale. If you were there, I want to see it. Supposedly, Bruce Nang coming in at -9 for the hot round this week. So Bruce, if you have your card, share it below. I want to see it. Let me see that blue. And finally, Woodhill Red, Chris Kingsnorth comes in at -6 for the last hot round of the week. Congratulations, everyone.
Fantastic. There's the Sunday sessions at Invercargill going on at the moment, and last weekend it was taken out by Ethan Stout, who checks in with a 9 under par, and it's 1002 rated. That's the 5th round of his career. So now we're going to welcome our guest. Our guest tonight is the brains and the man behind Wino. They're the latest company to kind of hit the New Zealand disc golf scene. Let's talk to him. Good evening, Henry.
Good evening, gents.
There we are.
How you doing, Brady? Hey, how's it going?
Very
good, brother.
Very good. So
thanks so much for having me on the show. It's a real pleasure.
Oh, look, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. I'll be honest, took me when Wino launched, it took me a little bit by surprise. I didn't kind of see it coming, and suddenly, bang! There's a new company on the scene, and they're making some really awesome stuff. Tell us a little bit about kind of how the company started and kind of how it got from kind of seed idea to launching.
Yeah, sure. Look, I'd been playing, or actually known about the sport for some time, but then really kind of got stuck into it maybe at the tail end of 2020, and had entered a few tournaments in the early part of 2021. And by the time I got to about April, May, I had amassed a collection of discs that was perhaps mildly concerning, and was carrying them around at the time in an old sort of book bag that I used to carry my library books home from university, which at the tournament in Te Kuiti last year in May, which rained both days, was not fit for purpose. So, needless to say, it was a bit of a shambles. And by that point, and so look, I went to and surveyed the local market to see what I could do to upgrade. And when I did survey the market at the time, I sort of came to appreciate that the bags that were available at the time were either undersized or a little bit too far out of my price range, or of suboptimal quality. And I thought, look, maybe with my experience in design and in manufacturing, I could produce something that I felt was fit for purpose, and that could meet some of my sort of reasonably high expectations for what I want in a product, which is it's got to last for years and work as intended, really. So initially, I surveyed some manufacturing options overseas just to produce a very small run of prototype packs or backpacks, and the initial plan was I was going to make 6, and I'd sell off 5 and keep one for myself at no cost. And anyhow, I went through the design process and put probably more hours than I should have at the time into it. I think my mum and dad will be tuning in, so they might be, well, they will now know that I put more time into that than I did my university studies at the time. So that wasn't maybe not the best move. But anyhow, in hindsight, it might work out. But yeah, look, we went through the design process and a sampling process with the manufacturer, and then they arrived in what might have been September or August as the big lockdown last year was hitting. And when they arrived, I thought, gee, these are all right. And I suppose we went through another sampling process, and I went back and thought, look, you could really do something great here for the local community to introduce a high quality, large capacity line of disc golf packs. And suppose here we are now. We launched on Boxing Day last year and sold out of our first run of packs in about a week and a half. And we've got a second shipment on the way that's arriving at the end of this month. So it's sort of been guns a-blazing since then, and very exciting, I think, in our early stages to have received a great response from the community this far. So that's how we got here.
And so you'd mentioned that you went to school. Was that school for design, for business? Where does starting your own disc golf business come into? Is it a side hustle? Is it more of a you want to be a full-time Frisbee guy?
Sure. Look, initially it was a side hustle, I think. I'd always had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit about me, I think. When I was in high school, I started a garment printing and manufacturing business using some printing equipment that I'd imported from Australia and set up in my family garage at home, and ran that while I was in year 12 and year 13 at school, and then sort of left school slightly early to try and put a bit more energy into what was this business at the time. And that was all fun, but I was a young fella and it was more of a learning project than it was a business really by the end of it, looking back on it. But so I kind of wrapped that up maybe as I was turning 19, and then went to design university up here in Auckland. I'm originally from Christchurch, and studied digital and graphic design for 2.5 years. So that's sort of where my background in design comes from, both in that practical experience on the business side, but also on a formal kind of tertiary education side. What I'm studying now at university is totally irrelevant to product design and disc golf. I study psychology, politics, and economics at Auckland Uni, so it's completely up the wrong end. I suppose the psychology is good in some senses, but anyway, that's another story. Yeah, so that's sort of where that all came about, and how my experience in design and manufacturing contributes to what I'm doing today.
When we shared, we were on the same card at Nationals for the first round. So I got a good look at your bag and what it was like. It's taken some inspiration from a few. I spotted some of those. Which other kind of what inspirations did you get or did you take from in the design of the first bag, or the one that you had at least at Nationals?
Yeah, look, I've done a pretty significant amount of market research prior to conceptualizing the design of our two packs. So just for a bit of context, we have a line of two different models of pack. The larger of the two is called the Pro Pack, which is a 30+ capacity bag. It's a big boy and it's a real workhorse, but you can pack a lot in there. I've got one beside me at the moment, which I've been carrying 36 discs in of late. Ooh. So wow. It's a big fella. And then its little brother is, it's you don't have to fit that many in if you don't want to. The big main pack is a main pocket. It fits about 25 on its own. And then you can add in your lunch and your jersey and your jacket and your water bottle and your umbrella and the kitchen sink if you really want in and around that. But anywho, and then its little brother is what we call our snack pack, which is kind of based off a military day pack, but and that's a 25+ disc capacity bag, 22 in the main pocket, and then a bunch of putter pockets, as well as some side pocket for accessories. In terms of some of the inspiration that we took away from that early market research, which was then implemented into the design of these two bags, the Pro Pack is in part modeled off a Latitude bag called the Luxury Pack, which is kind of their premium top of the line bag. And the integral structure of our Pro Pack is similar, but with some very significant modifications. We changed pocket sizes, we changed the size of the bag on the whole to make it bigger. We changed fabrics to make it lighter weight, more durable, and cheaper to produce. We added certain features that allowed for better storage. We added some internal pockets, and then added some structural reinforcement into the sides, the back, and the base that we felt was really important to uphold the structural integrity of the bag. And then we've been able to, in doing all of that in a kind of cost-effective way, we're able to deliver that to the market at a rate that's about 15 to 20% cheaper than our closest competitor in the Latitude luxury bag. So that's exciting. And then the smaller pack, the snack pack, that is modeled, as I mentioned, partly off a military day patrol pack. I am currently a member of the New Zealand Army in the reservist force. And look, we go out, when I was doing my basic training, go out on day patrols all the time, and you carry just the essentials, your lunch, well, not even that, almost, a little bit of snacks, and various bits and bobs that you'll need for the mission on the day, and then equipment that you as a team or as a section will have to carry collectively. So the snack pack itself is effectively a disc golf version of that. You carry the essentials. You might have a little bit of room in for extra bits and bobs that would be nice to have on the day, but it's a real workhorse, and it'll hold tight for a long time. So that's our packs.
Well, can you take us a bit through? So, like, the packs look amazing and function amazing, and I've seen them all over both islands now. But
Thanks.
Where does the name Wino come from? Like, does that have an origin story or anything? Like it's quite a unique name.
Sure. Yeah. Look, our Wino name was conceived probably about 4 or 5 years prior to even I knew of disc golf. So to give you the context, our abbreviation WIN.O, W-I-N.O, is derived from a longer word, which is W-I-N-N-O-W, WIN.O, which is an agricultural process of separating wheat from chaff. So wheat is the good bit that you take away from the grain, really, is what you take away from a wheat stalk and turn into cereals and breads and all sorts of things. And then the chaff is this disposable part that really doesn't have a tremendous amount of utility. When I was working at design school, I kind of conceived of this brand, and it didn't really apply it to anything in particular at the time. It was just a project. But as a designer, I felt that word WIN.O and its meaning in terms of the agricultural process had minimalist design connotations, in that you would keep the good when you were designing a product or piece of graphic design or a website or whatever, and dispose with all of the unnecessary bits and bobs that aren't needed. And I think at the time I had really bought into a bit of a minimalist philosophy. I'd culled down my wardrobe and done all sorts of stuff, and felt that going forward, those sort of that kind of core ethos was important to integrate into product design. And I think lo and behold, when I came about sort of embarking on this the project to produce a great disc golf bag, that ethos that was implied in our brand name seemed to fit just too well to miss. So yeah, that's where WIN.O came from. And I have always thought that the brand name WIN.O didn't necessarily have to apply to disc golf in isolation or exclusively. I thought going forward, you could perhaps apply WIN.O and that ethos to all sorts of products and industries and markets, and carry with you that those core qualities of minimalist, great design, and disposing of unnecessary add-ons.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's
fantastic.
That's WIN.O, really.
Absolutely, and a great story behind it. Your team, you've recently launched your pro team. We saw that advertisement come out recently. Tell us a little bit about that. How did that get involved? Was that you being very proactive in getting a group of players that you'd identified you wanted, or did people come to you?
Well, look, partly, and partly not. A lot of these guys that are on the team are just great mates that I've made over the course of the last year and a half of playing tournament golf and things. And we've amassed a fantastic group of guys to represent our brand and work cohesively as a team. And I'm so proud of the crew that we've put together. And I think that's kind of evident in part in some of the achievements that the boys have amassed thus far. But look, on that front, when I launched the business in December of last year, I had been traveling around the country at the time for summer holiday with my pro pack, and had all sorts of people stop me in Jelly Park and Queenstown Park and Tucker Beach and things while I was up and around playing golf, asking and inquiring about the pack. But as you'll appreciate, as an online retailer, the opportunity to get our packs in front of people in the local community is limited. And what I found that when I was doing that over the Christmas period, people were just gravitating to it like wildfire. It was amazing. So, and we're very complimentary of the product. Around the same time, my very good friend, Willie Taratna, touched base, and he and I sort of got talking a little bit about sponsorship, and I thought this is a fantastic way to kind of kill a few birds with one stone in one, supporting a wonderful team of great people who are fantastic contributors to the sport, both in their contributions to their local community, but also as in being role models in terms of their ability on the course and their demeanour and how they carry themselves around the course. I think, yeah, ultimately to support them would be pretty amazing, but also to have an extension of our brand in those local communities via these guys. It seemed like a win-win for everyone. So that's kind of how that came about. And after confirming Willie was keen on going ahead and being a part of our brand going forward, I felt that it was important to kind of build a team. And so that's kind of when the proactivity came in. I approached a number of guys, and we had conversations about it and showed them the product, and had some reasonably long talks while they were playing rounds and things. And it didn't take much convincing for a number of guys, which was pretty amazing. So yeah, look, on the whole, incredibly proud of the team that we've got together, and can't wait to see what we can all make of it.
Absolutely. I mean, and because of where you sit in the market and the product that you're producing, you can work with players who have other sponsorships and who might have ties with other companies. Member of Team Sweet Chains, also on Team WIN.O, Dave King, and that works complementary for the player ultimately, and they can benefit from support from both companies without it being a kind of competition as such.
Yeah, agreed. Look, we're well aware that we're in an incredibly unique position in terms of the type of sponsorship opportunities we can offer all sorts of people around the country, and we've got guys on our team with existing sponsorships with almost every retailer and manufacturer around the country. So, but to have an opportunity to co-sponsor these guys in addition to, or in conjunction with retailers like yourself, Matt, and manufacturers like RPM is a real pleasure. So, and it's nice for us to have a link across a player, to work together with one another. So, yeah, we're in a very special position, and pretty cool.
So, what's the kind of the future? What's your kind of what do you see as being like the next sort of year or two for WIN.O? What's the plan?
Sure. Look, our next big milestone really is the arrival of our classic Pro Pack and classic snack pack shipment, which is due in the latter part of this month, which are available for pre-order now at our website. But and then I suppose distributing that up and down the country is kind of the next port of call, really. And we'll be doing that in part via our online store, but also in conjunction with our sponsored guys, and they're going to have an opportunity to introduce the Pro Pack and the Snack Pack and our brand to the local community. But then look beyond that, I don't know, to be honest. It's going to be really exciting to see kind of what happens and how the brand's received over the next couple of months. So I sort of feel that we're in a position where the world's our oyster, and we're considering an opportunity to enter overseas markets and expand our product line and do all sorts of stuff. So I think in selling out of our first run of packs in a week and a half, that gave us some validation that we've got proof of concept in our product and our brand. And I think we'll look to verify that in those overseas markets, and then I don't know what's next. You know, it's going to be pretty exciting if we do receive the confirmation that we're, you know, hoping that we'll get from those international markets and from the arrival of our new run of packs here, that we could do all sorts of things, frankly. And I think I'm quite willing to put all, you know, full steam ahead and get stuck in and do all sorts of stuff. So all is exciting, I think. Watch this space, I suppose.
Well, and before we get into like Desert Island Disc Golf and kind of the fun, you know, like how about you, like Henry the Player, you know, like I met you on the course, Matt met you on the course, you know, like you still play and love disc golf. Like what can we expect out of you, you know, like for the next 6 months, 12 months?
Oh, look, I'm not giving up that anytime soon. I tell you what, there's no chance I'm going to become a desk worker full time and give up playing the game because I love it too much. But admittedly, my practice has decreased significantly over the last couple of months. So yeah, it's anywho. But as on a personal note, my love for the game is continuing to grow. And we've got a wonderful crew of guys up here in Auckland who get together regularly and travel away to tournaments now and do all sorts of things. So, and you'll likely see me at all the tournaments coming up here in the North Island and a couple in the South Island too. So, I love this game. I think it's fantastic, and you know, not merely because I think I find a real sense of achievement and innately in my participation in the sport, but also because I feel that there's something really special about the community that is attracted to disc golf, I think. Look, I came from a background where I played competitive ball golf for many years growing up, and I was playing kind of high-level amateur golf as a high school teenager, traveling around the country playing tournaments and things. And the competitive culture in and around ball golf at the time, look, this might be an age thing, but it could really be a part of the sport more broadly, was pretty cutthroat, to be frank. And so it was a wonderful, or it has long been a wonderful change of scenery to have found disc golf and be welcomed into the community with such open, warm arms, and enjoy a communal sense of encouragement from everyone in the community. I think we've got something really special going on here, to be frank, and it's no wonder after watching your statistics show a couple of weeks ago to see the game growing at a rate that is unprecedented. So it'd be interesting actually to talk to you both about what you might attribute the growth of that game to, because it seems that over the last maybe 4, 5, 6 years, it has just hiked like nobody's business. I, for one, sort of sense that maybe the quality of the coverage that's now being put out on YouTube and the exposure globally of that coverage is one contribution, but also the expansion of parks and all sorts of things. And courses is another contributor. But what do you reckon?
Well, it's a really interesting subject, and actually we asked earlier on about things to talk about in future shows. So this is definitely an idea, and maybe you could join us again for a future episode, and maybe we could do like a round table on this. I think there's several different things that are at play. I'm not going to go into the detail of them now. That's for our round table discussion, I think. But it's not one thing. It's a number of different things. And I do think disc golf has kind of benefited from a unique set of circumstances over the last couple of years. So being one of them. So yeah. And talking of tournaments in the North Island, it does seem like that you and your boys have locked out the advanced division at Brook Park this weekend.
Yeah, look, I pointed this out earlier in the week to the boys that we are due for a win, and we've got a great chance at Tekawiti because of the 10 entrants into the advanced division. We have account for 8 of those spots. Yeah. So, look, if Dane Sales and Josh Pratt are listening to the show, look, you better watch out, fellas, because you're in for a run for your money at Tekawiti next weekend. Yeah, it'll be
absolutely.
If I may, sorry. If I may just ask another question. I made some comments just before about the what I felt was a very heartwarming and wonderful culture in the disc golf community, and I just wondered whether you echo those comments or whether my experience in the disc golf community is perhaps unique.
Brady, do you want to answer this separate to me? Because and I'll tell you the reason why. Okay, is that I'm relatively new to disc golf as well, right? So I've only been playing 3 or 4 years. Sweet Chain's only been going since 2019. This podcast's only been going for just over a year. Brady's been playing since he was about knee high. So, Brady, do you want to go first, and we'll deal with this question.
Though, firstly, I got to echo Anthony here for a second. I think I need to go play Tekawiti just so I can give these Auckland boys a run for their money.
I've spoken too soon. We're in real trouble now.
Like a dozen people have signed up in the last 5 minutes.
Take it all back. Can we cancel the
show? Yeah. Oh, wait, it's live. Sorry. Yeah. Speaking of the community, arguably it's to be fair, like from my personal opinion, and I'm probably, to be honest, Anthony Rogers can vouch for the same. It's super welcoming. Like it's one of the large reasons that I love the community, that I love the sport. And for me, like why I've stayed in New Zealand, like the opportunities like yourself, like with Wino, like of that we get in this sport, like in that it is growing and that there are places overseas and in the States that it's much more established and it's much more competitive, like you found in golf or you find in other sports around New Zealand. But New Zealand's at this beautiful kind of tipping point. And I think you hit the nail on the head of, yes, like Matt touched upon it earlier, and we could talk a whole show about it of, like what attributed to the growth. But I would argue that, like as we grow, that it is this welcoming community that is helping us grow, but we also need to make sure that we're fostering that community as we're growing. And so, like I love the fact that you are supporting boys around the country with your, like with your team and that kind of stuff, like, and it's scratch your back, scratch mine, like of helping your bags get around. But this community is absolutely great, super welcoming. One of our new members, Kath here in Wellington, anytime that we go play, anytime there's a woman on the course, she's like, do you know about Ladies League? Do you know about like the women's global event? And like, she's constantly trying to like welcome and usher people onto the course. It's absolutely great. So I completely echo your statements of, yes, it is a wonderful, welcoming community.
Yeah. And I'd agree as someone who's come into disc golf relatively recently. However, having had, I played Ultimate for a long time, at relatively competitive levels at times, and what I would say is the difference I find between the welcoming of the Ultimate community compared to the welcoming of the disc golf community. I've got to be careful here that I don't rip on the Ultimate community listeners who might be listening. I found that Ultimate claimed to be a very welcoming sport, and I found that generally speaking, it did. Because it's come from like a disc sports background, which I guess over in time, in history has come from kind of perhaps a more alternative background. I think that's kind of helped. The difference between disc golf and Ultimate, I found, is that there are less clicks in disc golf than there are in Ultimate. With Ultimate being a team sport, groups of people obviously form and become a team that might play together. And as someone who might play on several different teams, a smaller group of people who all play on the same multiple teams can sometimes form a little bit of a clique. And I felt that was really one of the only things that kind of that's the main difference for me. You don't tend to have that in disc golf because it's an individual, broadly competing sport. I find that those cliques aren't there so much, and really everybody who I've encountered on the disc golf course when I was starting out was very nice and welcoming and wanting to teach people to be better. And you can see that from, look at any video coverage of when anybody hits an ace. What is the rest of the card doing when it happens? Right? Everybody's going mental, right? No one sat there going, "Oh shit, I've just lost 2 strokes to this guy." Right? Everybody's going crazy because we want to see the everybody do really well and do some really awesome stuff. So yeah, I totally echo your thoughts. We're gonna move on to Desert Island Disc Golf. The premise for anybody who hasn't seen this segment of the show before is that Henry is stranded on a desert island. There is a disc golf course on this desert island, and he's been stranded with 3 discs and 3 card mates. Now his card mates can be real or fantasy. They can be alive or dead. They can be seasoned pros or people he knows. So, Henry, what are you throwing on your desert island?
Look, I picked out a few of these earlier. So I am an avid viewer of the show, so I did know this was coming. But I went into this thinking that I'm going to be on this island for a while, so I've chosen some premium plastic, and I've got one.
It's pretty windy as well. So.
Yeah, I've got one workhorse that I think could cover a lot of what do you call it? Cover a lot of bases, which is I say this all the time, my atomic P-Walker Walker. I'm going to putt with this on the island for starters. But look, I think one of my go-to shots really is a hyzer flip, and hyzer flip to flat, and I throw this hyzer flip to flat all the time. This and a glow tui is probably the other one that I'd throw on that kind of angle. On downhill shots, this thing will glide forever. I don't think I'm going to throw it into the wind. That's probably the only time where I'm not going to use it, but I will use this for all sorts of things. So that's going to be disc number 1. The next disc is, I can't beat it really. The next disc, look, I don't have a forehand, so that makes things challenging. But what I've sort of worked into my game over the last kind of 6 to 8 months to replace a forehand has been a thumber.
Right, so I can attest to this, right? Because I turned up at Nationals first round, and like this guy steps up onto the card and throws a thumber off the first hole, and I'm like, who's this guy? Like, we'd not met before. And throws a thumber on the first hole. I got it relatively near, and I was quite impressed. And I heard you did it for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah. Look, I think I threw thumber on 3 of the first 5 tee shots at Nationals. You must have gone, who is this absolute nut?
Yeah.
You could have saved yourself for the rest of the tournament.
Oh, yeah, this is it.
So anyway, look, I throw thumbers all the time, and I felt with the PWOC, I'm going to need something that's pretty stable or overstable. And my absolute go-to thumber disc is this tie-dye Champ Firebird, which I bought with Mikey Yu's help from Small Planet. I don't know if you'll remember, about 2 years ago. It might have been like the 3rd or 4th disc that I bought, and I had no idea to throw it at the time. But over the course of the last couple of years, I've figured it out, and now so Mikey, if you're listening, thank you very much for introducing me to the Champ Firebird way back then. Look, I'll throw this backhand not forehand and thumber, and that'll be that. And then the last disc that I have added to my 3 that I'm taking to the desert island is one that I think is going to keep me entertained for a very long time. Mind you, it might beat in depending on how much I throw it, but this is a new addition to my bag, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But as I am figuring it out, it's proving to be increasingly interesting and awe-inspiring, and that would be this Aerobee Epic. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but
Yes,
in a minute, and then that'll sort of.
That's the one with where the rim is a different diameter, like a different thickness around it, right? So the center of the middle is off center. Yeah.
So the bottom here, the rim width is, maybe an inch, and the top is about 2. But look, I have been learning to throw this on thumber of late, and which is really one of my go-to shots, as I mentioned. And it'll flip like a normal thumber would, but then instead of kind of hyzering out here, it'll continue to flip until it gets to flat. And this is while it's I don't know, 70, 80, 90 feet in the air or whatever. And then it will fly nose down, and that like hyzer out as if it was a right-hand backhand. And the first throw I threw with this was at Taupo, just as a practice throw, kind of in the field next to the first tee there. And I thought, look, I'll just full mark, like I'll throw out 60% kind of thing. And it flipped, it went to flat, went nose down, and I threw it into the car park down by the toilet block, which was 135 meters away. So, this thing I'm going to enjoy on the desert island. Yeah. It's going to keep me for years. And that's my 3.
Fantastic. We don't have many Aerobee epics on the show. Excellent. Right, who are you playing with? Who's your card?
I didn't even think of this. I forgot actually that I'm going to have to not play on my own. So that's really exciting that I'm actually going to be able to take some mates.
It's like Henry, and Henry.
No, I couldn't. No, I've got good friends now. So I can't deny them the chance to come and hang out with me on the island for however long. Look, there's too many boys in Auckland to pick. We've got a group of, 15 of us, and I think if I chose one over the other, it's going to be, I'm going to get grilled about it for weeks, and I don't want that. But just so they know, I'd take all of them. I'd take any of them and all of them. But I think they would say, look, you've got to play with the best of the best. So I'm going to take 2 pros, and then I'm also going to take one of my family members, I think. So as for pros, I'm going to take Macbeth. Macbeth is probably the best of all time, and so to not take up an opportunity to watch the best of all time in the flesh, I think seems silly. So Macbeth's on the card. The next one is a difficult choice because there's probably like 3 or 4 people that I would love to watch, but can't have everybody on the card. So I'd think about taking Eagle or Ricky or Simon or, there's so many. I'm probably going to take Ricky, I think, because I think to watch Ricky and Paul maybe battle together would be really interesting. And
that would be.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Ricky, and in terms of his sort of personal demeanor as well, he does all sorts of interesting things now, like cold immersion and stuff, and I find that quite interesting. So would be good to kind of rack his brain about those sorts of things and how he's leading his life now and what his golf philosophy is and mindset stuff and all sorts of things. So those 2 would be great. And then my final card mate would have to be my dad, I think. So when I first started playing the game, my very second tournament was Nationals at Paradise last year, and Dad came to Nationals with me and came and walked with me for each of the 3 rounds, and then did the same this year at Nationals at Berrinport. And so he and all of my family, frankly, are big fans of disc golf, but also huge supporters of me. And my endeavours both on and off the course. So I'd love to have my dad on the card.
Fantastic. That's a great mix. And you and your dad would get to see an epic battle as well. I think Ethan's comment about you throwing an epic might make Beth leave. I think there's a fair chance that's true. Anyway, moving on to our quick fire round. So we've got the family friendly front nine to kick us off. Same questions every week, and then Brady's got a safari back nine for you. This or that. Quick fire. Here we go. What's your name?
My name is Henry Pearson.
And your PDGA number?
It's 156559.
Where were you born?
I was born in Christchurch.
Where do you live now?
I now live in Auckland.
And how many years have you been playing?
Probably 2, but I've known of the game and probably played the game once or twice a year for maybe like 8 or 10 years.
Your favourite disc?
Oh, don't do it to me, Matt. That's too hard. I think it'll probably be a champ Firebird. I mean, I throw thumbers so much, and I throw that for 90% of my thumbers. So it's going to be a champ Firebird, I think.
Excellent. Your favourite course?
Oh, Paradise by far.
Your favourite MPO player?
Gee, that's tough. I'll take Ricky, I think.
And your favourite FPO player?
Oh, that's a hard one as well. I quite like Kristen Tatar. I think she's got a pretty interesting approach to the game. Yeah, I'll take Kristen Tatar.
Excellent. Brady, take us through the back nine.
In the quick fire back nine, let's go. Hyzer flip or forced flex?
Oh, Hyzer flip all day.
Halo or swirly ESP?
I think it'll be a swirly ESP. There's some pretty sick 2022 Tour Series stuff coming out. So, and that's hard to miss, I think. So, yeah.
Team Innova or Team Discraft?
Oh, man. These are supposed to be quick fire rounds, aren't they? But they deserve, being pondered on for a day. I'll take Team Discraft, I think. Yeah.
Ooh, yes. That's right. Know your place. Pro Pack or Snack Pack?
I carry the Pro Pack, but I think sales would indicate that everybody else is choosing the Snack Pack.
Okay. Shaved head or clean shaven?
Ooh. Sorry, just a clarification. Does that mean the mode goes? The clean shaven? Oh, no. Oh, look, we can't do that. It's going to have to be, I'm going to have to go dome pop, I think.
Shave the head.
Yeah.
North Island champ or South Island champ?
I'm going to say North Island champ because that means I have to beat Jacko, Simon, and probably all the dudes who came up from the South. So, yeah, look, I'm going to take North Island champ, I think. And it'll probably be at somewhere like Bellaraka. And to win at Bellaraka is ridiculous. So, yeah, I'll take North Island champ. Thank you.
Okay. Drew Gibson's distance or Ricky Wysocki's putting?
Oh, Ricky's putting, I think. Look, if my putting's on, then I feel like I'm playing pretty good. I don't really care how far I'm throwing it. So I'll take Ricky's putting, yeah.
Would you rather attend the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship or the United States Disc Golf Championship?
Probably the USDGC, I think. Winthrop is a cool course, and I think that the atmosphere at the US Champs is like almost no other. So USDGC, please.
And finally, hole 18, does Henry run it or lay up?
I'm gonna lay up. I'm gonna lay up because look, a par in MA1 is fine. Yeah. So, and if I run it without Ricky Wysocki's putting, I'm odds on to make bogey. So I'll take a par. Thank you.
So everyone in MA1 going to Brook Park, make sure you run it on 18 because you'll get a stroke on Henry.
Yeah, you got it. Everybody else there putting on, and I'll just be tapping in my par. It'll be fine.
Excellent, Henry. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Very best of luck with Wino and the future of the and the pack drop that's coming at the end of this month. Just tell us a little bit about if people want to get hold of a Wino pack, what can they do?
Yeah, look, our packs are available for pre-order now at winopacks.com. I'll put a link in the comments for our website. And look, we've just launched a new website with our bios of our team and everything on there. So there's lots to explore, and any feedback on the site will be much appreciated. So packs arrive at the end of this month. So excited to introduce them to the country, and we sense that you'll love them as much as the guys did with our first run. So that's where you'll find us. And look, thanks so much for having me on the show, Matt and Brady. It's a real pleasure, and what a wonderful contribution the two of you are making together to the disc golf scene here in New Zealand with your show and your business and Team Sweet Chain. So yeah, a real pleasure, as I said, to be part of it in some way.
That's very kind, and very best of luck at Brook Park this weekend. Yeah, we'll have you on. We'll speak to you again, I'm sure.
Yeah, sounds good. Would love to come on again. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Cheers, Henry.
Thanks, Henry.
Bye.
Excellent. Right, let's put us back to where we were supposed to be. There we are. Lovely. Yeah, Wino packs have been doing some great stuff, eh?
Separating the wheat from the chaff. I love it. Nah, it's good.
Indeed. I really like that. So yeah, there's plenty of links. There's plenty of links in the comments if you want to head over to Wino Packs, check their team and their products out. Having seen one being used by Henry on the course at Nationals, I can attest to how good they look, and from what Henry was talking about, it certainly looks like they're made of very good quality and very good design. So head over to there if you're looking for a pack. Right. Something that Henry just brought up, actually, quite unprompted, is an idea for a future show about where we can perhaps go a little bit more detail into the. We had a stats episode wasn't last week, was it the week before? So if you want to go back into the archive and check that out on our YouTube channel, then you can. But it might be good to have a kind of a follow-up episode to that talks a little bit about why we think it's happened. We had the stats and we've gone through those numbers. And so, yeah, so I think, Brady, you'd be keen for a round table on this, get a few people in and have a bit of a discussion on it. Some of the other things that we've been looking at doing in terms of future shows. Now, we've got two ideas here that we think are pretty cool. Yeah, we think are pretty cool, but we'd like to know what you want to hear. If you've got any ideas for future shows that you'd like to see, pop them in the comments below. The first one that we're going to be tackling could be quite controversial. I don't know. Depends how much people want to share, and I'll certainly be doing my research beforehand. And that's on the finances of disc golf tournaments. Right. So right from the entry fee to what do you get for your entry fee, to how much money is the tournament director making from this tournament, if any? What kind of pro purse is paid out or not? And how does a tournament director go about deciding that compared to all of the other things that they need to pay for? Brady, you've hosted heaps of tournaments in the past. I've run a couple, nowhere near the same portfolio as you do, but I think that would make a great future show, is to talk a little bit about the disc golf tournament finances and how someone goes about it. Not least, actually, as a bit of a service for anybody out there going, look, I'd love to run one, but I'm worried about being out of pocket significantly afterwards, or You know, how do I make sure that this thing breaks even and I can afford all these players packs or whatever it is, or how can I offer the service that I want, and still you know not go bankrupt because of it. What do you think?
Well, yeah, like I would say I'd make it even broader. You know, like I would just call it like a disc golf event show, because not only I'd love to know the breakdown, you know, like in what you've done with leagues, what I've done in leagues, you know, like and done in tournaments, I can bring in that knowledge. But I'd also like to know and like to hear. So like feel free, like leave a comment down below. Like as a player, what do you like to see out of a tournament? Like, do you care more about a tournament disc? Do you care more about a pro payout? Do you care more about, you know, like prize support and like winning a disc? Trust me, I just ran nationals for 100 people. I've run tournaments for 8 years. I've heard a lot of things, and it's one thing to run an event. It's very something else to play in an event. You know, like you heard me asking Henry before, you know, like, sweet, we know you, Henry, the businessman, and Wino and what you're doing, but what about, you know, Henry the player? What about that? You know, like, and so, yeah, I'd love to kind of see both sides of that kind of tournament aspect of, yeah, like running an event in New Zealand.
I'd also like to hear people's thoughts on the cost of entry as well. I mean, we see a situation where I think Brook Park Brave is like $50 to enter, and then Topor the week after
like 40, I think it
might even be 40, and then the week after in Topor, I think was 160 to enter. So quite a big difference in tournament entry fee, and that might be. I mean, there's obviously lots that go into it, so I'm not making a judgment purely based on those numbers. What I'm wondering is, are you getting 4 times the value from Topor as you are from Brook Park? Don't know, and that's something which I'd like to explore a little bit more. The other idea we had for a show, and actually I spoke to someone about this as the show was starting, actually, and got confirmation that they'd like to do this. Is we'd the latest member of, well, the newest member, I should say, of Team Sweet Chain, Kath Headley, who Brady talked about earlier, who does a great, absolutely put so much work into growing the game, the ladies' game in particular here in Wellington. She's helping me to run the women's global event, which we'll talk a little bit more about in the upcoming events in the beginning of August. And she doesn't have her officials exam yet. So she's agreed that on a future episode, we will do the officials exam live on the show, right? So if you're sat there wondering, I want to be an official, but I'm worried about the exam, we're gonna go through it. And I mean, there's a whole bank of questions. We'll only get a portion of them, so it won't be exactly the same, but there'll be some overlap. And you'll more importantly, you'll get the experience and the familiarity with the system and the way that you've got to do it and all of that kind of stuff. And we'll try and pass it first time. We should pass it first time, in fairness. Both me and you are officials, and there's a whole bunch of people who might be able to chip in as well. So so we think that might be a good show to do in the future, as well as you know, a bit of fun, and encourage people, if you haven't already, to have a go at the officials exam and get an event running. Let us know in the comments below if there's any ideas for things that you'd like to see on a future show. Right. Next up, we are going to go and have a look at some upcoming events. So let's get this. Let's get us sorted. This one and then this one. One moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like you're a week early for Take a Witty. Yeah, Take a Witty's not this coming weekend, not in like 2 days. It's in like 10 days. It's Easter weekend.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. So I've got my dates mixed up. So we still got a bit of you still got a bit of time. If you want to enter Brook Park Brave, then you can do. You've got a bit of time to enter before it's on the 16th of April. Then Topor the weekend after that, and Montana Flat if you're down in Riversdale. Final event of the Generation Disc Golf Tour. King Country Classic the weekend after that in Taumarunui last weekend in April. Lismore, the registration for that opened very recently. You may have got an email about it. So register for that in the first weekend of May if you're keen. Sub-Zero, which I think is another Generation Disc Golf event in Omarama on the 11th of June. Timaru, Tukwati in Timaru on the 24th, 26th of June. And Women's Global Event. There's one in Wellington, one in Auckland. I've heard rumors of one in Christchurch as well on the 6th of August. So that's the same date all around the world for women's disc golf. So if you're keen on playing in one of those events, I think there's one in Christchurch, one in Wellington, and one in Auckland. So get involved with whichever one is the easiest one for you to get to, or that tickles your fancy from what you can see. Well, in which case, we won't do picks for Brook Park. We'll wait till next week to do those. Actually, next week we got a guest on the show next week who we've already kind of booked in. Brady.
Next week we actually get. I don't think he's reigning Australian champion anymore. My good friend, past Australian champion, 4-time Australian champion, 1-time New Zealand champion, Paddy Robinson will be joining us from Geelong in Australia. We'll be having another overseas guest, another overseas champion joining us next week. It'll be fun to catch up with Paddy. And him and the Geelong Disc Golf Club hosted their nationals they carried it over because of all the lockdowns that were happening in Melbourne and Geelong. So he hosted the 2021-22 national championship, or the Australian Disc Golf Championship. So we'll talk to him about that TD experience for him and the club as well.
Fantastic. And very briefly, we'll have a look at the power rankings. They've not changed since last week, and they'll change next after Brook Park. So there we are. Lovely stuff. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Hope you enjoyed listening to Henry from Wino, and wherever you're playing disc golf this week, take it easy, play well, get some birdies, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Peace.